There's a house in a terraced street in Ponders End, North London, where the events of the past 2 months have baffled all who've heard about them and scared the life out of those who've been directly involved. This is the home of Mrs. Peggy Hodgson and her family. At the moment, the children are being looked after by relatives because Mrs. Hodgson is ill in bed. The sequence of bizarre happenings which unfolded round these children and their mother in September have made the walls of the house rattle with the impact of flying objects and the sound of mysterious knockings.
The town of Enfield was North London. The kid I was a very outgoing child, very energetic. I love swimming and I love sports.
I was sort of helpful towards my younger brothers and sisters. It was just like a normal family life, really.
We had no knowledge of the history of the house.
People stayed very scared and tired of it. And it got worse as the time went on. We got more exhausted with it.
It's what happens in the supernatural demonic world. In order to infiltrate someone's life, they don't just, oh, I now have you possessed. They have to weaken you by creating turmoil, noises in the night, things that go bump. They start to elevate fear and they begin to feed on that fear.
For the family, when weird things started to happen, they actually did the right thing and they called the cops. And that's how the police were involved. They came to the house, they investigated, they checked around, and sure enough, all the weird stuff that the family was saying were happening in the home actually happened to the police officers.
This chair in the corner sort of shot forward about 1 metre in front of them on its own. And she sort of went like that, the policewoman, and she sort of looked in disbelief and was looking to see something was attached to it and one of us might be playing a joke on her, and maybe that's the sort of look she gave.
When you read their interviews, it's like they could not get out of there fast enough.
My neighbour called the newspaper. We didn't know what else to do, I suppose, like in desperation for some sort of help.
The chap on the news desk, being a bit sceptical, obviously didn't believe her at all.
The newspaper thought my neighbour was drunk. They don't come across this every day, do they?
When she mentioned the police had seen this, they had to believe them then. You wouldn't ignore the fact that if the police had witnessed something, that was good enough for us. I was in my early 20s. I was a photographer on the Daily Mirror, covering anything, everything. News, sport, fashion, you name it, I shot it. Janet was brought in, and as she came into the room, suddenly things just took off. Wherever Janet was, it just seemed to happen. Kids are kids, you know, they'll do funny little things for attention, but not the things that we were seeing, we were witnessing there. They couldn't have done those things. They weren't even in the same room at the time. So, no, I quite believe what I was watching was genuine. You'd have chairs tip up, beds turn over, drawers would fly out in a room there was no one in.
Oh my God, the levitation of those girls. They would levitate.
I remember being pulled from my bed. I felt like a cold hand feeling and pushed up into the air. It was like a force, and I was screaming.
On the evening of the 31st of August 1977, the Hodgson family of Green Street, Enfield, were preparing for bed.
It started in the back bedroom. The chest of drawers started to shut. We could hear shuffling, and Mum came up the stairs.
Oh, this is going on.
She said, "No, I want you two to pack it up and stop fighting. If I have any more of it, I'm going to separate you or something."
We told her what was going on, and she see it for herself. She see the chest of drawers moving. And when she tried to push it back, she couldn't.
By the next day, my mum was exhausted. She was emotional, nearly a wreck, you know. But she held it together for us, and she said, "Oh, come on there." We got on our coats and slippers in our night clothes, and we went to my next door neighbour, Vic and Peggy Nottingham. And Vic came to the door. He said, "You all right, mate?" Because he was a big burly bloke. He used to be a builder. He weren't scared of nothing.
Vic listened to the Hodgson story and went next door to see for himself what was happening.
I went in there and I couldn't make out these noises. I went up the stairs and there was a knocking on the wall. There was a knocking in the bedroom. I passed in.
And we got on, I think they got on to the police.
The police duly arrived. There seemed no obvious cause for the strange sounds, but with youngsters living in the house, there was the possibility of a childish prank.
And we explained what was going on and that, and I think the lady officer actually saw the chair move or rise.
It came off the floor, or nearly a half-inch, I should say, and I saw it slide off to the right, about 3.5 to 4 feet before it came to rest. I checked to see whether or not it could possibly have slid along the floor. I placed a marble on the floor to see whether or not the marble would go in the same direction as the chair did, and it didn't roll at all.
The Mirror team returned hoping to capture those elusive images, but in the days that followed, the journalists became so worried about the family that they appealed for specialist help from the Society for Psychical Research.
The Society was set up in 1882 to investigate those faculties of man, real or supposed, that are not explicable on any generally recognized hypothesis. Well, in other words, it is to look into weird things.
The present-day SPR has a wide range of membership, ranging from complete skeptics, I'm a member of the SPR myself, to, at the other extreme, people who are convinced that paranormal forces really do exist.
In 1977, the SPR had a new member, an inventor named Maurice Grosse, who had joined the society after losing his daughter in a tragic accident. When the call about Enfield came in, he jumped at the chance and headed for Green Street.
I didn't know really what to expect. I didn't know whether it was a real hoax. Perhaps the children and the mother were having a right game with the press. I thought, this is very, very unlikely. Anyway, I kept my mind fairly clear on it. I went to the house, I went in. As soon as I got in, I could see everybody was very disturbed. I've never been able to forget that voice. He called himself many names, but mostly Bill or Fred. I still listen to the 180 hours of tapes I recorded during the investigation.
Bow, 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 the pump, check you down the street. Merrily, 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 lovely pump the train. Now now.
This voice is coming from an 11-year-old girl. Well, perhaps, Guy, perhaps you've got something to say to them.
Yeah.
I'd like to know how you make this noise without bashing Janet's vocal cords to pieces. If I do it for half a minute, I get a sore throat.
Goose chases here.
And we found on analysis, the voice was not made by the larynx, the voice box, but by the false vocal fold, which is above the larynx. And you only use that when you lose your voice and you talk like that. Well, if you talk like that for more than a couple of minutes, you start getting a sore throat. Talk like that for 5 minutes or so and you're going to start doing damage to your throat. And yet this voice used to speak up to 3 hours at a time. Not continuously, of course, but up to 3 hours at a time without the girl showing any distress at all. Absolutely remarkable.
Let me hear you say my name. Come on, let me hear you say my name. That's not my name. Come on, my name's Morris. Let me hear you say it. Morris. Say Dr. Belloc. Come on, let me hear you say that. Come on. Let's hear you say Dr. Belloc. Could you close that door down? Say Dr. Belloc. What is it? Just hold that. What's on this way? Now, if you squeak the bed, I can't hear you talking. Now, say Dr. Belloff. Come on. Come on, say it for me, Dr. Belloff.
Dr. Belloff. Right, that's good. Shut up, that door. I'm 72 years old. I come from Jewel Park graveyard. And I have right near the church where Rita lives. And all my friends come from there as well. And we all make a game and go to the pub. And then we pick your house. Because I used to live here. And I will tell you some more. And if you don't get anyone else, just let Mr. and Mr. Playback.
I want you to tell me whether you remember what happened to you when you died. Just before you died and just after you died.
Days before I died, I went blind. Then I had an hemorrhage and I fell asleep and I died in a chair in the corner downstairs.
Bill, if you're there, would you answer me the following question? What have you done with Denise's 30p?
Headed down to the radio downstairs.
Sorry, Bill, can you say that again, please?
Headed down to the radio downstairs.
Righto, Bill, I'll go and look. Thanks so much. Why can't Janet feel you?
I'm invisible.
You're invisible? Why are you invisible?
So much G-H-O-S-T.
Did any friends go with you?
Yes, all of them. All the dogs, 68 dogs.
And what do you got 68 dogs for?
So that they can protect me from you killing me. They can bite your head off.
How can we kill you, Bill?
You can shoot me off.
Now how can we shoot you if we can't see you, Bill?
By praying to God.
Sorry, I didn't hear that, Bill.
By praying to God.
By praying to God. So, what you're saying is we couldn't get rid of you by praying to God?
Yes.
Upsetting this family? Is it because you enjoy doing it? You do enjoy doing it. Well, I suggest that now you've now, what does that mean? Why have you done 3 knocks? Now I ask you the question again. 2 knocks for yes, and 1 knock for no. Now, yes, that's right, you understand. Now, do you enjoy upsetting this family? You do? Well now, will you please go away? Because I think you've had enough of your jokes. You won't go away. But I would like you to go away, and go away because I think you've been upsetting this family long enough, and it's time you went away. You understand me? Please go away. Yes, you must go away. It's absolutely essential that you go away. No, you mustn't be obstinate. You must go away. Well, you must. I'm sorry, but you must stop annoying this family. You've had enough. You've had a good time. Now, please go away.
What about the voices? When did the voices start?
December the 12th.
December the 12th?
Yes.
And how did they start?
Well, one night Mr. Grove was talking about it about 8:30. He said, all we need now is the voices to talk. And that night I went to bed and can't remember exactly what happened. And
what's that knocking?
yeah, I can hear it now. I was doing that yesterday morning and Peggy was on her own. So she come in to us because it wasn't her, she come in. We sat together and we heard it. And I counted how many knocks and there was 14 altogether. And it's doing it again now.
That was 3 knocks just now.
Yes, it goes in 3s and 2s. How we first got contacted, this was when Mr. Rose said, if there's anyone there, knock twice for yes, and if not, 1 for no.
I wonder if we did that now, whether it would answer. Is anybody there? Is anybody there? Nothing. No.
It doesn't always do it to order. No, it doesn't. It goes in spasms. Like we're talking now. It may not now, after you've said that, but it won't do it when you want it to, straight away. No.
What about the voices? They sometimes say things and make answers. Is that the voice now?
Yeah.
Is anybody there? How many voices are there?
Dirty Dick, Andrew Garner, and Stuart Thurton.
Dirty Dick, Andrew Gardner, and Stuart
Thurton.
Oh, has he ever spelt that for you?
No. Mr. Ghost asked him, but it's like distracted Mr. Ghost last night when he asked. Oh, some time ago.
And
Sorry,
what do you
go on.
think these are? Are they people or are they just voices?
Could be spirits, oh, I don't know. I believe it's a form of a spirit speaking for us somehow. No. We don't get this at school, these voices are. Because I believe when we're all separate, it's not so strong.
Just when you come near each other?
Yeah, like here, or our aunts, we were up there together, or in Peggy's next door.
And Janet's, your voice is stronger, isn't it? It seems to be the strongest.
Yeah.
When you hear the voice and it comes out, where does it come from? Here, your throat?
No.
Where do you feel it comes from?
Back of the neck. Back of the neck.
And so it must be as if it's somebody else speaking then, when you hear
Yeah,
it.
behind us.
And do you get the feeling when you hear the voice that there is a person there?
Yes.
Yeah. And do they tell you much about themselves?
Not really, no.
They just tend to growl and...
Play around and sort of joke and be silly. No.
I wonder, do you think there's anyone there just now?
Yeah, I do.
Who's that?
What?
Who's that, Janet?
Pardon? Stuart Certain.
Stuart Certain, and he's one of the voices.
Yeah.
Why do you think he comes and speaks through you?
To annoy us.
Does he ever say anything nice?
Well, don't know really.
Shall we try and speak to him? No. We'll see if he'll speak to us.
Yeah.
Is anybody there?
No.
Who's there?
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who?
I thought that's pretty impressive. I've had my mind read there, so I thought I would ask it some questions about what I thought might inform me about what a ghost was or a poltergeist was.
I want you to tell me whether you remember what happened to you when you died.
I went blind. Then I had an hemorrhage and I fell asleep and I died in a chair in a corner downstairs.
This really was undeniably an old man's voice. Certainly not the voice of an 11-year-old girl. That it actually never occurred to me in a way that this could be anything other than an old man's voice.
Some months later, Gross was contacted by Terry Wilkins, whose father Bill was buried in a nearby cemetery and had lived at the house before the Hodgsons moved in.
I had an hemorrhage and I fell asleep and I died in a chair in a corner downstairs.
Astonishingly, the voice had described the precise circumstances of Bill Wilkins' death.
But it describes exactly how
That's exactly what happened. He died in the chair, down in the living room. My mum popped out to the shop for 10 minutes. When she came back, he was dead.
Is it who it says it is, or is it some psychic joker having a game with us? And I have a strong suspicion that in poltergeist cases, we've got a psychic joker at work. It may have been Bill, well, I don't know, it may have been Bill. According to Terry Wilkins, his son, it was his father. But how do we know it wasn't some entity impersonating his father? You see all these questions it throws up. Nothing is straightforward. God, I wish it was. Saved me a few headaches.
In July 1978, almost a year after the disturbances began, Peggy Hodgson, with the help of Gross and Playfair, had Janet admitted to the Maudsley Hospital for psychiatric testing.
I think she felt that if I went into hospital to have tests, I would benefit by, and she would benefit by knowing that I was normal, and things would die down at home.
They gave her every possible test you can think of, and they prodded her all over, and they took her brain waves and everything else. She was as normal as they come.
After 2 months in hospital, Janet returned home with a clean bill of health. Seemingly, the situation in the house had calmed down.
Like all poltergeist cases, they eventually start to diminish. And I personally, and this is my own opinion, is that they start to diminish because the stress started to reduce.
Even though they died down and they stopped, I always felt there's always something there. I don't know about now, but while Mum was there was always something there.
Peggy Hodgson continued to live in the house in Green Street until her death in 2003. Janet and Margaret have gone on to lead normal lives. In the years since the case ended, nobody has changed their account of what happened, even though some were offered money by the press to do so.
There are good, strong reasons to doubt that keep the debate going. And this will run and run. I don't think people will probably ever lose interest, but I'm also equally sure that nobody will ever come up with a definitive explanation of what went on all those years ago.
I haven't spent the last nearly 30 years thinking about this. In fact, I've tried not to think about it because I did find it very disturbing.
If it was put on, and if it was all faked, and it was cleverly manipulated, then all I can say is that family were very, very clever.
I know, from my own experiences, that it was real. And it did happen. Call me whatever you like, a prank, mad, whatever.
I would put it in the sort of middle rank of poltergeists where things move, things misbehave, things are thrown, and, fairly well observed by fairly reasonable people.
I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't have seen it myself, but I don't expect anyone else to believe it just because I say so. But it did. I know what I saw, and it was weird.
This was real life mystery. Marvellous. I don't want to do it again, though, thanks. Once is enough.
They'd become part of history. Well, who knows if that wasn't what they were supposed to do? You know, I don't like to be mystical at all, but who knows whether that wasn't their destiny from the word go.
Sometimes I'm scared of the dark or I'm jumpy. And I jump even at work over the slightest thing if someone comes up behind me and they just can't make out why, and I can't tell them. Because that's what it leaves you with, this thing you've experienced, you know.
I just felt, as a person, they were to do with me. And I didn't feel in control. I felt used. I still say used.